Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stronger Together. Today, I'm excited to bring to you a special guest, Jennifer Edwards, Dr. Jennifer Edwards. And Jennifer was introduced to me by a good friend of ours, Naomi Hall. And we just kicked it off and had a great conversation one on one. And I was like, hey, we have to take this to our group. Would you mind having a similar conversation again? And so she was gracious enough to do that. So we're excited to get to have this conversation with you all watching. A little bit of a background. Dr. Jennifer Edwards is a transformational leadership and energy coach, a speaker, and a veterinarian with over 25 years of experience in business and leadership. She guides people through high pressure and emotionally complex environments. And there's more. I'll put the full bio in the comments so you can read up about her and see the link to more information about her. But I want to jump into this conversation with you, Jennifer, because it was just so much fun hearing your story, hearing your journey, and how you help people, especially women, take things to the next level. So welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to speak again because, yes, it was a great conversation.
Absolutely. So you were a veterinarian for many years and then decided to sell the practice and go into like leadership coaching, right? Tell us more about
Yeah. Well, and I still do practice medicine, very part time per diem work. Um, and yeah, I started a practice from scratch back in 2007, and I ran it and grew it for 13 years, and just decided that I was finished with that part of my journey and got into action. And lucky for me, I actually sold it 6 weeks before COVID hit. And my other passion throughout my entire life, which thankfully helped me through a lot of very difficult times and severe episodes of burnout and all of the things, was studying people and transformation, self development, spirituality. So, took all of that after I sold my practice, took all of that study and experience and leadership and mushed it all into one big bucket, went back and got several coach training certifications, an ICF credential, and now I pay it forward and help other people through all of the trials and tribulations and I guess what I like to say is the conscious creation of their own life that other people helped me to do.
Beautiful. Love that conscious creation of their own life. That's a great way to say it. And I think one of the things that we really connected on was that both of us have been kind of that lifelong learner, pursuing, what's going on the inside of us and the inside of other people, to try and get the most out of ourselves and get out of our own way. And so we have kind of taken different paths to end up with a similar understanding of what's going on in the human psyche and at the unconscious level. And so it was such a great conversation. I hope to get more into that today. Actually, will you kind of speak to that? Like what are some of the things that you experienced as you were on your own growth journey? What were some of the things that you kind of like discovered about yourself, like the ahas that when you realized maybe you were getting in your own way and how to shift some of that?
Oh, there's so many. Um, I think if I were to think of a few of the big ones, one one thing that I discovered a long time ago was this idea, and a lot of different bodies of work, schools of thought, whatnot, have different words for it. It's this fundamental underlying core belief that each of us holds about ourselves, usually not a positive one. And it's there's a lot of things people might say, "Oh, well, I don't like this about myself. I don't like that about myself." But usually if you strip them all down, they all funnel down to one core version of I'm not good enough. And when I first started learning about that, probably back in about 2008, 2009, it was really eye-opening for me, not only to discover what it was, but also in that moment and in the time that followed to really start to get present to the impact. Like, wow, how much it was driving the bus, running the show, whatever you want to say, and how how many things in my life happened, choices I made that happened by default because I didn't know. And there was this fear for me, some people they think they're stupid or they're not lovable. For me it was about this need to be liked. And while we all have that need in some regard, for me, like that was literally the driving force behind almost everything that I did. I didn't know. And kind of layering in some other work that I did, I started to even see areas where while I thought that I was really committed to something and I was working and working and working towards that goal, especially in my practice, the need to be liked subconsciously was actually superseding those goals. And I was making choices and putting up with some things that really were holding me back. But because I didn't know, I was so frustrated. I'm like, why can't I just do this? Or why can't I create this in my team? Now, when I first realized it, of course, it was very sad in a way. It was like, oh my gosh. But the beauty of it is that once we are aware of these things, and if we're willing to dive in and take a look, from that moment, we have a choice. And to this day, it still shows up, of course. These things don't, in my opinion, they don't ever really fully go away. Um, but it has such a less intense grip on my life. I feel it, and then I kind of observe it and kind of chuckle, like, "Oh, there you go again, Jen." And I'm able to just push it aside and not really have it influence the choices I make now. So, of course, my outcomes are more aligned with what I want to create. But that was one of the biggest things I learned. I think that had the biggest impact on my life. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that you shared that. And this is kind of where we hit last time we talked because, your school that you went through kind of helped you find that unanswerable question. And the school that I went through talks about the greater problem. And it's the same thing. It's a core belief that you have. Mine was that I thought I would always be a disappointment. And so when you believe that, you're going to do things to validate that belief system subconsciously, unconsciously, you're going to sabotage life. And so I love that you have that awareness and that you can help people with that. One of the things that I know that kind of a lot of our audience is going to connect to is the personality trait agreeableness. And agreeableness is actually a scale of agreeable on one end and disagreeable on the other end. And it's a whole spectrum, right? Like you're not either all the way one way or the other, but for a lot of us who are kind of prone to this people pleasing behavior, this need to be liked, that kind of stuff, we shade more toward that agreeable side. The disagreeable people, they're in a sense they're blessed because they just don't care. Like they just if you don't like them,
Yeah.
they just keep plowing ahead, and it's like most of us think they're, pardon the expression, but they're asshole, but they're not. They're just like they just don't need that kind of validation, so they can just kind of put their head down. They have their own other problems, but for those of us that are on here that agree with that and feel that, know that, it absolutely can sabotage our life when have that need to keep people happy, whether it's in relationships or in business, start giving away too much or don't have good boundaries. And so I love that you learned that. And so how did obviously you say it's still there a little bit, it still comes up, but what are some of the techniques that you use to manage that? Like when you feel that rise up, what do you do now to practically move yourself through that?
Well, what I do as far as an approach has evolved over time. I'm at the point now where I literally just ignore it.
Okay.
Um, I wasn't always here though.
Yeah. So
There
let's
was
go
a lot of
back and
time.
talk to, so like
Yeah.
when you first learned about this about yourself, like what were some of the things that you first used to get out of this?
Yeah. So the way I see a lot of these things is we first start to notice them in retrospect, right? We become aware, like, oh my gosh, this is a thing for me. Then we start back into our lives and something will happen. And then we look back and we notice, oh, there it was. So it started out noticing retrospectively where it was affecting my life. Still not necessarily stopping it, but again, noticing it in the past. When we can start to notice things in our past, like the immediate past, like, oh, in that situation, I was influenced. If we can do that without judgment, without the, I'm such a jerk, I can't believe I did that, but more of like, oh, isn't that interesting? What can start to happen is we start to notice the patterns where it starts to show up and in what way it starts to show up. So then the next step is to start bringing it in a little bit proactively. And usually a situation arises, I start to notice it's going to be there. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't, oh, but I do it anyway. Then I get to a point where maybe I delay, or sometimes I'm successful in making a choice free from that. And then over time, it's like building any muscle. It just starts to loosen its grip. Um, to the point, like I said, now I am in situations all the time still where I'm like, do they like me? How about now? Well, how about now? Do they still, they're laughing, they're smiling at me. I got invited. Like it's to the point where it's almost comical. And now I'm like, okay, Jen, like enough. And I just ignore it or I just recognize it for what it is. And then I start to say, okay, here it is. This is an opportunity to practice. And I just start to focus on practicing, focus on whatever the task is at hand. But it's very complex and it's very, very deep. And simply knowing it's there it doesn't make it go away. I think that it takes time and it takes discernment because we're all so different
Yeah.
in how it shows up and how it impacts us. But the important thing too to remember is when we discover these things about ourselves, there can easily be a feeling of like something's wrong with me or I'm weak or, like I'm broken. E- Everybody has it. Everybody. So it's very normal. And the question just is, what do you want to do with it? And whether or not a person wants to dive in, figure it out, and start taking back their power or not. And there's no right or
Yeah.
wrong there.
Yeah. I love that. And I like to quote one of my teachers who used to say, oh, or I think he had it posted in his garage, think not that all wisdom is found in your school. And so I love that, the way that you approach dealing with that might be different than the way that I approach dealing with that. And thousands of therapists probably deal with it in a thousand different ways. But I love that you at least have an approach to address it. And one of the things that's coming up for me is whether you choose to work with somebody or not, if you're listening to this and you've got an issue like this that comes up, one of the things you said a minute ago, Jennifer, was the judgment around that. And I feel or I find that oftentimes the judgment is almost like quick, but then it's attached to a shame around it, right? And that shame sticks. The judgment can happen like this. The shame can happen for a lifetime if you're not aware of it. And so I love your approach there of just like embracing, acknowledging that it's there, being aware that it's there, acknowledging it, and then learning to kind of, in a sense, play with it. Like, okay, this is what's happening and feeling it and being aware of it and moving through it instead of trying to resist it and fight it because you have some sort of shame or embarrassment around it. So I think that's very practical as far as a way to approach it.
Yeah, well, what we resist persists, right? So shaming and resisting, making ourselves wrong is just going to amplify that which we don't want to be experiencing. And at the end of the day, these things, these feelings, whatever you want, they're nothing more than a belief. Like really, like when we pare it down, it's just a belief. It's a thought. And it's amazing how we are designed as humans and the way our minds work that we give such incredible weight and power to a thought and a belief. A belief is just a thought that you just keep having over and over. So you decide it's true. Well, just because we decide something's true doesn't mean it actually is true. And so one of the other things that I have done and people can do is just literally call yourself out on it. In the moment that you feel not good enough in whatever way, or I'm a disappointment or I'm not lovable, whatever it is, just question it and say, or just tell yourself that that's not true, and start to almost just, you know, invalidate the validity of the thought because it's our truth, lowercase t, but it is not the truth, capital T. We are all amazing beings. We have so much to offer. We're loving and kind and all of these things. These thoughts just run in the background. They're not true and they don't have to control us.
Love that. One of the things seems to be spreading like wildfire in our community is we have brought up recently the idea of the reticular activating system. I've actually named him. He's RAS. Like we just talk about him like that. And how your RAS, your reticular activating system, works in tandem with your confirmation bias. And so your brain has this belief system and it's going to look for things, evidence that validates and confirms that bias. And then it gives your eyes the instructions to look for proof of that, to continue to validate and build this mountain of evidence to support your belief system. Even though the belief system may be absolutely horrible for you, may be giving you terrible results, you get stuck in this loop of something bad happens. Oh, that's proof that I deserve it because of whatever the thing is that I believe. Now I've got more evidence. And choosing to just not believe it, to me, is difficult. It's easy to say,
Very
like,
difficult.
oh, you just stop believing a belief, but like it's been there with you for a while. And one of the things that helped me was somebody told me, like, start looking for evidence to the contrary. Like, tell your reticular activating system to start looking for, hey, when is that not true in my life? When has it not been, when has it been different than what I expected it to be? And if you can consciously give yourself that instruction to look for those other things, you'll start to see them. And those start to form cracks in the belief system where it's like, oh, I say things like superlative words like that's always true, but it's not always true. Like sometimes it's not true. Well, how often is it not true? Now all of a sudden the scales get a little bit balanced and that belief doesn't have as much strength as it used to. And so you've got to consciously start looking for that evidence that doesn't support that belief system because it's easy to just say the word belief, but like it's incredibly powerful. Once
Yeah.
something takes root in you and it becomes part of your belief system, it will guide your life whether you like it or not.
I In such ways that when people aren't aware of it, they can't even imagine. It literally can be behind everything that you do in your work, in your personal care, in your relationships. And you're right, it's not so easy to just stop believing something. What's amazing with what you said, I very much resonated with that. Evidence, evidence contrary to our belief is all around us all the time. And the reason I know that is because the belief isn't true. So therefore, there's lots of evidence to prove it wrong. And yet what we do is we make evidence that supports our belief is evidence. Anything to the contrary is an exception to the rule. And I think we look at other people that way too. And whether it's groups of people that we have stereotypes against or, somebody we're in relationship with, if if you think of somebody who you think is a jerk, somebody even in the office, oh, and she's always nasty or he's always toxic, and everything they do, you're like, see, what did I tell you? He's a jerk. And then one day he comes in and he's like, good morning, how are you? Your brain doesn't say, I was wrong. Oh my gosh, I was wrong all this time. He's friendly. No, your brain says, why is he in a good mood? Right? So what's up with him today? Why is he so chipper? Like we still, in the face of contrary evidence, we discount it
Yep.
because it's not supporting our belief. And the other just real quick thought is to look at what we're getting out of keeping these beliefs in place, right? Because
Yep.
there's a reason why our minds don't want to let
Yeah.
them go.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think transitions kind of perfectly to, the work that Mayan and I do with relationships. So many women come into like meeting us, learning about us, and they come in with some of these belief systems like all men cheat, there are no good men left, like, oh, you name it. That thought that comes up when I say like all men, like your brain fills in the details there. And sometimes that detail will tell you why you're only seeing those type of men because it's part of your belief system. Your brain and the confirmation biases at work, your reticular activating system is literally ignoring mountains of evidence of good men around there, but it just looks for the ones to confirm what you already believe. And then you have all this evidence because you're only seeing the ones that align with what you believe. There's good ones out there. And I want to give you a little bit of a minute to talk about your story because I know you've been through divorce, that there was obviously some messy stuff there, but you've met an amazing man. And if you want to talk about your relationship, I always find it inspiring. I know our audience does too. So tell us a little bit about where you're at in your love journey.
Okay. So yes, I got divorced after 15 years. Um, a relationship that I would say probably stayed in too long, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners would resonate with.
Sure.
Um, mostly for my daughter. I'm sure that's a common story as well. Um, and it just, I had not like from even a place, this is how sad this is. Not even from a place of being sad about it. With a smile on my face, I would just accept and know I will never feel connected, loved, nurtured, feeling, all those words again. I'm grateful that I've had that in the past, and, some people never have it. And I literally had gone through years with this belief that I would just never experience that again. And that was just my plight in life. And oh boy, not only how sad that is, but how wrong was I? Um, because I did finally get out of that relationship. And, when we create the space and we're clear on what we want, because remember, energy attracts like energy also. So when you talk about our beliefs standing in our way, really working through that, and I'm sure that's when you guys help people work through this stuff, is creating clear on what you want and creating the space. You'd be amazed who shows up. And my current partner, my lifelong partner now, we've been together 5.5 years and we're committed for life, is just a wonderful, loving, caring man. And I've just never before been in a relationship. The biggest word I would use is just easy. I never feel judged. I There's no pretense. There's no annoyance. Um, and we were talking just actually yesterday. We had this conversation because it was talking about how I was listening to something and it was saying about the fallacy of people who need to find their better half or find the person that completes them, and how that's still just another version of deficiency, right? Like we are whole and complete on our own, and another person is whole and complete on their own. And I was talking with him and I said, and I think that's part of the reason why we things are so easy is because we are both whole and complete on our own, and we're not here to complete each other. We're not here to fix something about each other. We're here as ourselves, holding hands through life as partners. And it's such a different context than anything I've ever experienced before. In fact, I don't think I even would have thought that was possible. So I'm here to tell all your lovely people out there that it is possible. And it can happen in an instant, right? It seems forever away when it's not there. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's just there. So, just keep doing the work and have faith, because I'm telling you, it's available.
I love that so much. I love a good love story. And I love, so Man and I are maybe two of the only people that I know that consistently say this, but so many people say that, marriage is hard, love is hard, and that it doesn't have to be. Like, especially if you can do the work that you've talked about doing on yourself or the work that we help people do, where you look at yourself and find those beliefs and pull those things up. I like to say you're basically um, clipping the wires on the landmines that you've planted around you so that when he steps on them, you don't blow up. You don't have this huge emotional outburst because he did something.
Right.
And so you did that work, you found those belief systems, you uprooted them, and then yeah, you attract somebody that's amazing who's, healthy in his own right. And so the healthier that you are, the healthier the partner is that you attract. And so I love that you found that you created that, and you're an inspiration to so many people around you. So thank you for sharing that story with us. And I wish you many, many years, lifelong success. That love story continues to grow and blossom and inspire, because we definitely need more people to see that that kind of relationship is possible. It's out there and available. It's not something that's the unicorn. Yeah, I want to make that more and more aware that those things are possible. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And to me, it's not just about the more you, yes, like I said before, energy attracts like energy, but the more work you do on yourself, it's not just about not attracting those poor partners. They're not even attractable
Right.
because you're aware and you're like,
Yes.
God, no, like, just like, no, like, what? Like, and so you're just like, nope, 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 and you're aware of your own values. You're aware of what an aligned life feels like for you.
Yeah.
And he comes up, you don't even need to worry about whether or not he's a jerk. Your values just don't align. You're like, nope. So the the choices, the decisions become automatic.
Yes.
And so when something finally feels like, yeah, maybe I'll date this person, you're going to have already weeded out so many of the non-fitting people because you're aware of what works for you.
I love that so much. And you said it maybe better than I've ever said it, but when you've done that work, you no longer have to, and this is where I think a lot of women get confused because it's like, oh, I know what I don't want. And they're like, they know how to look for all the red flags because they're heightened sensitivity to the red flags. But when you've done the work, you don't have to look for the red flags anymore. You just can go through life, love in life, know that you're going to attract a better partner and trust that you're going to be fine. If somebody that isn't right for you comes along, you're going to see it and go, oh, we don't align, go back and like keep moving. You don't have to be on such guard for that. And so the way you said it, I loved it because yes, you're just not going to attract or align with those poor, poor partners anymore. You're going to only attract and see and feel comfortable, not even comfortable, confident moving forward with somebody who is aligned with you. And so, yeah, it just makes it easier. Like the more work you can do on yourself in regard to this, the easier it gets. You don't have to go on a bunch of dates and, waste a bunch of time, try things out. Like you just know and know how to move forward. I love it.
Right. Because the danger is, and trust me, and this was my, before I even got married, here's the thing about red flags can be ignored, right? So when we are hypervigilant in finding everybody's red flags, how do you know which ones matter and which ones don't?
Yep.
And then you start ignoring red flags, and then later you look back and you regret that. Whereas when what you're looking for, like you said, is alignment, when what you're looking for is what feels good, you don't have to worry about ignoring it because who wants to ignore that?
Yep. Yeah.
So it just feels it's just different. It feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. We call it away from energy or toward energy. Like when you're looking for what you're running away from, like the monster in the horror movie chasing you, and you're looking back over your shoulder, like, I can't let that catch me, versus like, oh, there's where I want to go. Keep going over there. Like if
Yep.
you're looking back, you're going to trip over something and it's going to get you. And so I love the way that you shared that. And it's incredible. Thank you so much for this conversation. I want to kind of wrap up and give you the opportunity to talk about who are your clients? Who are the people who love working with you, get the best results from you? Tell us about who that is and who you love serving and what you do for them.
Well, what I love to do, who I work with, is primarily professional women because that's been my life as a veterinarian. And what I help women to do is very similar to what you guys do, but in the realm of life, career, um, uh, self care, business. It is helping people to discern, to uncover that which is holding them back, tethering them down from creating the life that they envision. And it doesn't mean that everything has to be broken and bad and I'm burned out and all these things. Sometimes everything's great. And what else? Right. So, when people say, like, oh, I just keep trying to get to that next level or create this team at work or hone my leadership, because big passion of mine, like I said, is conscious leadership. They just keep trying and trying and trying different versions of things and end up with more of the same because when we only have what's in our mind, we're going to end up with the same results. So getting in there, uncovering it all, and basically finding that freedom to create, that's what I'm all about.
But I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. If people want to connect with you or find you or follow you, what do you recommend? Where's the best place to get more of Jennifer?
So my website is drjenniferedwards.com, and that's doctor with a DR. And LinkedIn, Facebook is all at Dr. Jennifer Edwards, YouTube channel as well. And feel free to check me out. And if anybody's considering at all that they would like coaching outside of relationship work that you do, feel free to just grab a call. I always jump on a call to have a conversation. We could talk about what you're thinking, what you're up to, what you're looking for, and whether or not it would work to work together.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate
Thank you.
your time so much. You're an inspiration, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. here on Stronger Together. All right. Take care.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.